Hey, if you're a Yankee fan, you should like the fact that they've won back-to-back walk-off games, and also be thankful for the fact that they may be figuring some things out.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Hey, follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And I'm your pal Sully. It's Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. We are officially in mid-September right now. And we only have everyone has fewer than 20 games at this point. And the races for the different positions in the American League, the 6 teams look pretty locked up right now. The Tigers made a good run of it recently, but a loss today. They're still 4 games behind Minnesota in the loss column with about, 15, 16 games left? I mean, a lot of things are going to have to go right. And the biggest duel right now appears to be, in terms of American League positioning, unless Minnesota goes on an absolute tailspin, is New York versus Baltimore, which team is going to be the American League East champion. And I have to say something. I'm saying this, I cannot claim to be a Yankee fan. I've been vocal about me growing up not being a Yankee fan, but you have to give credit where credit is due. That's part of what this show is. I'm going to show my biases as a baseball fan. They will come out. But the fact of the matter is this. I'm covering all of Major League Baseball. And so you have to be fair when things are going right. And you also have to be fair when things go wrong. Now, the Baltimore Orioles are right now, they have lost, 5 of their last 7 games right now. They went on a nice stretch, but they were beating up teams like Colorado and the White Sox. They played badly against Tampa Bay. They played badly, including the walk-off home run against Boston. They're going to be playing Detroit on Friday, but they've allowed the Yankees to slip, to slip into a comfortable position. They have a 2-game deficit. The Orioles have a 2-game deficit on the Yankees right now. And as of this recording, the Orioles do have the tiebreaker between the two of them. So they just have to match them. And the two teams do play each other 3 more times at Yankee Stadium in a couple of weeks. But the Yankees have won a couple of dramatic games recently. And the Yankees have been a popular punching bag, not just for people who are classic Yankee haters, but because they went on such a terrible, terrible streak in the middle of the season. And the fact of the matter is recently they have righted the ship to a degree. They haven't been playing great baseball recently, but since the walk-off loss to Texas, and they wound up losing those games, those final 2 games to Texas, and they lost the series to St. Louis. They lost the series to Texas. They lost the series to Washington. They went on a bad streak, but they wound up winning the series against the Cubs. And they showed a lot of guts by winning the series against Kansas City. The 2 games they won against Kansas City, they had multiple run deficits in both games. And then tonight, they won an extra inning game against the Red Sox. Back-to-back walk-off games. And this is, if you're a Red Sox fan, this was a kick to the fruit stand, because this dropped the Red Sox to 1 game over 500, and any hope they weren't going to make the playoffs. And as a native New Englander growing up, a huge Red Sox fan, I'd like to see them just finish above 500. That would be great. but losing this first game where they had every chance to win, this is going to be rough because they got 3 more games and they have to go 2 out of 3 to walk away with a split. But the Yankees, I mean, look, I know they had a bad streak. They're hot and cold, but when I look at this team right now, there are a couple of things that I would be very encouraged about. First of all, they brought up Jason Dominguez. Now, not that I think Jason Dominguez is necessarily going to be the second coming of Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, or even Roy White, but you're going to give the young kid a chance, and maybe it will spark the team. And quite frankly, while Alex Verdugo is a good defensive left fielder, I don't trust him any further than I can throw him. There's just something about him that just. How many times do you hear people talk about how he made a bonehead play here, made a bonehead play there, and the good folks of LA or Boston were exactly crying when he was traded away? Put Dominguez there. I think the return of Rizzo, just having Rizzo back helps. And I'll say it, I've been the first to trash Brian Cashman when he makes terrible moves, and I think he's made many. But I think arguably the best move made at the trade deadline was acquiring Jazz Chisholm. And one of the things that I had said moving into the trade deadline regarding the Yankees, especially because they were absolutely wetting the bed in June and July, and their lineup was dreadful. If you could get around Soto and Judge, the rest of the team looked like a split squad spring training game. And I said, they need to get another hitter into this lineup. And I said, it doesn't matter what position they play. It didn't matter what position they played because they just needed someone who wasn't an automatic out. And they acquired Jazz Chisholm Jr., said, you're going to play third, even though he wasn't a third baseman by trade. And he has gotten big hits, got a walk-off the other day. He's had some power. He has 9 home runs in only 32 games. Has some stolen bases. He's stolen 13 already. So he's given him power. He's given him speed. He's given him versatility. He's given him, baseball intelligence and a flair for the dramatic. But most importantly, it's a spot in the lineup that isn't an out. And also bringing back Rizzo and bringing back Stanton. Not that either one of them are exactly putting up all-star numbers, but at least they're living human beings that could get a hold of one. So I think that's helped the Yankees. And I also think, even though Clay Holmes got the win tonight out of the bullpen, he always pitched well. Nestor Cortez, they came out of the bullpen to win a game the other day. Rodon, sometimes you get a good Rodon, sometimes you don't. But I think that they should just, Cousins has gotten a save recently. Weaver has gotten a save recently. I just think right now the Yankees should pretend that there isn't a closer and just match up whoever the best pitchers. And if the situation where a middle reliever is pitching well, kind of the way that Nestor Cortez was in that game against Chicago, just let him pitch. Play by intuition. If you don't have a stud closer and the Yankees don't act like you do. And which means the Yankees have a decent pitching staff. If Boone can juggle the bullpen, then maybe they'll be able to close out some games. And the lineup is getting the hits when they want. Judge, I've heard some people, God, Judge has slowed down in his home run total. He has 51 this year. You know how hard it is to hit 60? He did a few years ago. Maybe give the guy a little bit of break. And the fact that he has an OPS over 1,000, and if Juan Soto gets a couple of doubles, he'll have a OPS over 1,000 as well. Things are looking good for the Yankees. Now, granted, over the long haul, the Yankees have been up and down and mediocre. But do you know what? That puts them in real good company. Let's hear from our friends over at TonaI. Look, everyone has life they have to deal with. And no matter how much of a gym enthusiast you're going to be, You're going to struggle with consistency. The commute, waiting for weights, other people's sweat, it makes skipping a workout very tempting. But with Tonal, you could choose from thousands of workout and train in a way that you actually enjoy at home. Tonal is the world's smartest and most effective strength training system. It helps you get stronger. It's powered by AI. Tonal learns every rep so it can deliver those workouts personalized just for you. I don't know if that sentence was grammatically correct or if I read the words out of order, but I can tell you that Tonal learns from your movement and provides suggested weight recommendations for every move. With detailed progress reports, they even create personalized program and workout suggestions or recommendations based on your individual goals. It's like having a personal trainer at home with you, as Tonal will optimize every workout just for you. And unlike traditional gym equipment, Tonal uses adaptive digital weight to advance your training techniques. Everyone from professional athletes to moms of three to your pal Sully. Tonal is trusted by thousands who have become their strongest. And right now, Tonal is offering listeners $200 off your Tonal purchase with promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Tonal.com, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off your purchase. That's Tonal.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off of Tonal. Let's get strong. This is a reminder that Locked On has created the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's called Locked On Sports Today, and you can check out some of the best talents of Locked On, giving you the latest news, opinions, and takes. Check it out on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, or on the Amazon TV of the Free Fire TV channel app. Check out Locked On Sports Today. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I mentioned that the Yankees have been mediocre for a decent stretch. Since June 12th, a 77-game stretch, the Yankees are 36-41. That's sub 500 for the last, that's going back June 12th to July 12th, August 12th. That's 3 months of baseball, roughly half the season, 77 games. There have been a sub 500 team. This has been the last 77 games. They've been a sub 500 team, which shows that they're a team that can be streaky. Right now, they look pretty strong. And I think right now, if they went into the playoffs playing like this, I would expect them to get pretty far, at least to the ALCS. Now, they may face the Guardians there. And the Guardians sure have been playing great baseball, right? Well, let's take it, since June 26, a 68-game stretch, the Guardians are a sub 500 team. They're 33-35 in their last 68 games. And so you have two teams right there who, if I said, I think the Yankees are going to win the pennant, I think the Guardians are going to win the pennant. Both teams you can point at and say, yeah, they've been mediocre for a big, big sample size and a recent sample size of this season. Well, the Twins have done the same thing. They're a game over 500 since that same period. The Orioles are a game under 500 since that period. So you look, the Astros have played quite well, thank you very much. And I actually think right now that they would be the team I would pick to win the pennant. But they could be vulnerable too. And Kansas City has its ups and had this period where they lost 7 straight games recently. I think this fares well for the Yankees because it's not like there's going to be a team that is going to be going into the postseason in the American League that you can point to and say, oh my God, everything's going right for them. They're on a big, huge winning streak. Maybe you can point to Houston, but Houston just lost the series at home to the A's. Now, the A's are better than we thought they were going to be this year. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the A's story in the final segment, but I think you can cancel out anything like, oh, momentum's going to do this, momentum's going to do that. The Braves could make the postseason. They're only a game behind the Mets right now. And the Phillies are most people's pick to win the whole thing, except they've been barely over 500 for the same stretch. It's an interesting year where you have there's one truly horrible team, and that's the White Sox. And you have a couple of bad teams, Miami, the Angels, the Rocks. But most of the other teams you have are flawed, one win streak away from being in it. And you're not going to have, say for the White Sox, you're not going to have a 100 loss team probably, and you're not going to have a 100 win team. So this could be the year where, a completely unlikely team wins the pennant in the American League, but also could be the year where, hey, look, it all evens out. You can't say, oh, this team was great all year. This team had a great momentum. This seems like the ideal year to say, hey, it's all going to wipe out at the beginning of the playoffs, so let's just see how it plays out. You're not going to see a super team win the American League pennant. And you're probably not going to see a team that had a really, really terrific second half cruise into the World Series. So all things considered, I think this is good news for the Yankees, who are still salivating for their first pennant since 2009. And if they can just not use a bullpen as if they have a Rivera, they don't. You don't have a superstar closer. And yes, I know those final 3 outs are more difficult than blah, 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 blah. But if you don't have a superstar closer, don't act like you have one. I told you my solution for the Yankees bullpen situation: just play whatever the best matchup is game for game and let the saves fall where they may. And you'll see a team that is not necessarily great, but I don't know, does the right thing come playoff time. Now, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit. I talk about the A's all the time on Locked On A's, but it's time I bring them up a little bit here for those of you who follow this show and have you really understand some of the insanity that's going on with this move from absolute hell. Let's talk to our friends over at PrizePicks. You've heard us talk about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. Watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks is the best way to get on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. And you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as few as 4 correct picks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. While we're here, let's just bring up FanDuel. You've heard us talk about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season game Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. If that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all of Sunday, September 15th, pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be starting live today, Thursday, September 12th. View your account page to learn about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, hear me out. Listen to Locked On A's. First of all, you get more of me, your pal Sully. I am the host of Locked On A's, at least for the next few weeks. And we're going to be talking about the move. We're going to be talking about the final weeks in Oakland. Maybe. We're going to be talking about everything that is happening in this absolutely surreal situation going on, and the fact that Sacramento may not even host playoff games, and the A's are a lot closer to the playoffs than you think, and saying goodbye to the Oakland Coliseum. Check us out on Locked On A's. We're available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. I would talk a lot about the A's on Locked On A's, obviously, and sometimes I realize, hey, I don't talk about them here. I'm not going to turn this into Locked On A's 2.0, but if you're not paying attention, it's absolutely insane and borderline criminal what's going on there. The Fishers have run the team into the ground. A once proud organization. He refuses to spend money, which he has. He's a billionaire and earns a profit with the A's. He's let the stadium fall apart, raise ticket prices, and blame the fans for poor attendance. And the move to Las Vegas is happening in such a crazy, reckless manner that A, we're not 100% sure what the stadium plan is going to be in terms of its design. B, the money's not there yet. They do not have the money. C, save for a couple of people, Las Vegas is not that thrilled about the A's arrival. Oh, they want a baseball team. They just don't want to deal with this guy, Fisher. D, the Oakland Coliseum leases up, and they burned so many bridges in Oakland that the chance of them playing there again are almost zero. In fact, I say almost is based on some recent things. So they have to play in Sacramento, in a minor league stadium, sharing it with a minor league team. I think we're up to E at this point. I don't know. All I can tell you is that I've been to a game in Sacramento in the summertime. It's unbearable. It is absolutely unbearably hot there. They need to have either a dome or some kind of awning on the team's stadium. And now we're seeing the Major League Players Association hasn't signed off on it. They're going to put an artificial turf in Sacramento, partly because to make the grass be major league quality is just prohibitive with the amount of money they have to spend on the water for it. Well, now it looks like the Players Association has not agreed to the upgrades of the park, and this is according to Jensen Rader of KFBK News Talk Radio Sacramento. And they are objecting to the fact that you're going to have artificial turf with a non-dome stadium that's going to be baking in the sun that could get the field up to 130 degrees. This is not going to be a team that, first of all, no one's going to sign with this team. And the Players Association is taking a look on like, this is a minor league ballpark. We're major leaguers. We need a better facility than this. And the fact that the A's have said that if they make the playoffs in Sacramento, they're not guaranteeing that they'll be playing the playoffs in Sacramento. They may have to go to a neutral site. When your plan involves sharing a minor league stadium with a minor league team, your plan involves not taking into account the sun that bakes Sacramento. When your plan involves a stadium of which there is no funding for it in Las Vegas, this is a horrific plan of which the commissioner of baseball needs to step in immediately. They need to make the Giants cede the territorial rights of the South Bay, which the Giants do not need right now because they have a stadium and they have a following. You can't have one of the 30 Major League Baseball teams absolutely crumble in a minor league ballpark baking in the sun that's not been approved by the Players Association. And now, if Sacramento falls apart and there is currently new ownership of the Coliseum site, does that mean they could play in Oakland? Is this going to be a Montreal situation? Is this going to be a situation where they come back? Is this a situation where they won't have a home? Now, baseball wants to have the Rays and the A's solve their stadium situation so they can expand. And Las Vegas is like, yeah, can you expand to us as well? I've said before that I think the A's are going to wind up in Sacramento, but they have to build a giant awning over the freaking ballpark. Otherwise, it's just not going to work because it could be an abject disaster. And it very well may be. And this saga is nowhere near over because Fisher and company still don't have the money to build a stadium. And it's an absolute mess. By the way, I do want to say, yesterday I talked about the poor pitcher for the Blue Jays. What's his name again? Yeah, Bowden Francis, who constantly is on the verge of throwing a no-hitter only to lose it in the ninth with home runs. And I said that he's cursed Well, I like this comment. This is from a 7-year-old on YouTube. Luigi says, he can't be cursed. He's just channeling Dave Steve, blowing no-hit bids until eventually getting one. For those of you who don't get that reference, a good job, 17-year-old. Dave Steve lost, 3 no-hitters in the 9th inning until finally throwing one in 1991. So good for you for getting that reference if you really are only 17 years old. Hey, no one got the trivia question. I'm going to ask you one more time so you have all weekend to look it over. When Mike Piazza hit the famous 9/11 home run, who was on base? What was the name of the runner who was on base? All right, let's look over Friday. The Orioles got to get themselves together, and the Tigers are hanging on to a tiny gasp of postseason hope. They're going to be facing each other. The Royals want to secure their postseason bid, and they're going up against the Pirates, who should be better than their record. The most intriguing matchup could be the Mets and the Phillies. The Phillies want to clinch that top spot. The Mets want to hold on to that wild card position, and they could do so with some victories over the Phillies, or the Phillies can make life hell. The Marlins and Nats are playing. Good for them. The Yankees and Red Sox are continuing the rivalry. Houck against Schmidt. The Yankees are just a better team this time, but that game's on Apple TV, so no one will be able to watch it. The Cardinals and the Blue Jays, 2 of the most disappointing teams in baseball, will be there. That series is for the birds. The Guardians want to move closer to an American League Central title, going up against the Rays. The Braves and the Dodgers in a really intriguing matchup. The Braves are playing for their lives, and the Dodgers are trying to figure out who the hell is going to be starting a game. Knack is pitching for the Dodgers. This is actually an important game for them. They need to have some sense of trust of some of their starting pitchers. The A's want to win 73 games. If they do that, they'll avoid a 90-loss season. Well, the best thing you can have to have that is a matchup with the White Sox, who are just 6 losses away from matching the 1962 Mets. The Twins need to hold on to that final wildcard spot. They're playing the Reds. The Cubs and Rockies. The Cubs have a vastly tiny chance of making the playoffs, but facing the Rockies is what the doctor ordered. The Astros want to continue to build and maybe push themselves with a little bit of momentum going into the postseason. Kikuchi is going up. Aldegheri, the first Italian-born pitcher who actually won a game. First one raised in Italy. The Brewers and the Diamondbacks could be a postseason matchup and an intriguing one. We're going to talk a little bit about the Brewers next week. The Rangers and Mariners, the defending champion Rangers with Jacob deGrom making his debut of the year. Good to see him back. And Webb and Cease for the Padres and the Giants. So there you go. You have a fun weekend of baseball. If only people could watch the Red Sox-Yankee game. Follow us at Locked On MLB. I almost said Locked On A's. Locked On MLB on Twitter, whatever it's called now on Instagram. I am your pal Sully at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about a fun weekend that's coming up and how a lot of teams being mediocre down the stretch could give some teams some hope. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.